Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country Homestead. So I'm trying to get started on part 2 of Pharma Free, while of course I'm still working on my many orders for aprons and skirts and crocheted items. So where I left off was mostly talking about thyroid and giving you an idea of, at least the start of how we took ourselves off thyroid, but I really need to go back farther than that to when we started first eliminating other medications from our lives. And one of the very first things we did away with was the allergy medications. Now, we weren't on prescription allergy meds. We were just taking an over-the-counter one that we'd buy at the Costco in bulk, and it was okay. It was decent. It seemed like it helped, but our allergies were never, especially this time of the year in the fall, was usually when they bothered us the most, the fall and then the early spring. And even with taking those medications, it just never, we still had the issues with the runny noses and the itchy, watery eyes and the whole bit. And as I started becoming, a lot of what got me here to where I'm at wasn't so much just research. Research was what happened after I started following this kind of gut instinct or maybe logic that there was really something wrong with the healthcare system, and that I think we've been doing it wrong for a very long time. And that if God made our bodies intelligent, and if you're not a Christian, then whatever. I mean, if you're an atheist and you believe we evolved this way, then it still fits. If we're supposed to be evolving and getting better, then why is our health getting worse? We're not adapting to our environment the way we should be. Why should we be dependent on man-made synthetic materials? So it doesn't matter how you believe religiously, you still got to stop and question. There's something really wrong here. We should be living in better health without having to take over-the-counter prescription drugs for every little thing. Well, I think there's several reasons why that fell into it. First, you've got Big Pharma that stands a lot of money to be gained off of convincing people they need to have these drugs to get better, when all they do is cover up symptoms, causing more symptoms along the way, causing you to have to take more medications. So, in order to eventually get off the thyroid medication, it really made sense to start smaller. Now, the really interesting thing about the allergy medicine is when I just took ourselves off the allergy medicine. I just quit taking it cold turkey. I didn't try to do anything to replace it. We just quit taking it. And, here's what was really interesting. Over time, our allergies got better and better and better. And again, I didn't do anything specific to make up for not having the medication. So that little experiment told me that our bodies can heal themselves, and that we've most likely our bodies become so dependent on medications to make us feel better that it's like any drug. Look at illicit drugs. What happens with stuff like, I don't know because I never took illicit drugs. I just know from what I've learned is that when you start getting into those drugs, you need more and more and more to get the same effect that you had the first time you took it. Well, it's the same thing with prescription drugs and over-the-counter drugs. Your body becomes, even painkillers, your body becomes so dependent on these things to make you feel better that you're going to have to take more and more and more to get the same effect. And if you quit taking it, yeah, it may be hard at first because your body's used to having it, but eventually your body will adapt and it will remember what it was created or evolved to do. And so that's what I found. And I just thought, well, how cool is that? So then I moved on to, there were several over-the-counter drugs I used to take. Now the next two things, even though the allergy medicine we took every day, the next two things I'm about to list was not something I took real regular. But being a dancer and a martial artist, I had frequent sprains in my toes and my ankles and my wrists and my fingers. And so, though I tried to avoid the ibuprofen as much as possible, you know, to take down the swelling and the pain, there were still times that I really kind of relied on that to help get me through. And I also was one, though, I've never been a migraine sufferer, and I know there's many of you out there. And that's another topic, but I won't get into that right now. But I got headaches frequently, just your standard average headaches, and I used to get them several times a week at least. And it was enough that most of the time I would just suffer through it. But when I had dance classes and stuff to teach, a lot of times I would go ahead and take something if it was bad enough that I thought it was going to interfere with my teaching. And let me flip this over. I'd like to actually do this step from the other side. And so I found myself several times a week taking the ibuprofen, which I really hated because I knew it was very hard on the digestive system. But it worked better for me than taking the acetaminophen. But then what I found over time is there was a time where one pill would work. I think 200 milligrams, if I remember correctly. Then I had to start taking 2. Then when I got up to having to take 3 to get the same result, that was another one of those things that made me think, no, I can't keep doing this. I've got to find a better way. And so I started looking into the natural way to take care of headaches. And that was when I started, I'd heard about essential oils then, but I always thought it just sounded silly. I didn't get it. I didn't understand the science and how, you know, the olfactory and the, you know, absorption through the skin and all that stuff and how it would possibly work. But I'm like, okay, well, I do want to go natural, so let me, you know, I started looking into herbs that I could grow, like the feverfew and the catnip and things like that. But in the meantime, you know, obviously I still had to get the seed and I had to grow it and it was going to take time. I started using the essential oils and I was amazed to find how well the lavender oil worked. And I started playing around, and peppermint oil is really good. And I just rub a little bit under my nose. And actually lavender, rosemary, peppermint all mixed together is an excellent blend for pain. And that's me experimenting. Because I know I also learned that rosemary was good for memory and brain fog and things like that. And a lot of times you have a headache, well, it's going to make you not be able to think real straight, and it's going to make you kind of foggy headed. So I found that to be a really good combination. Well, then from there, what I realized is when I started doing that, it became, I noticed that I needed it less and less, meaning I was having less headaches. And then the same thing when I started introducing the feverfew, once I got a good, you know, enough that I could start dehydrating and using, you know, making it into a tincture and using it like that, it became more and more rare that I actually needed to use it. So it's actually, natural remedies are opposite of the way synthetic drugs that the drugstore and the doctors want to push on you. Those ones, you got to take more and more because your body becomes dependent on it. But when you start going with natural remedies, it's opposite, because your body then starts to take its own health back and be able to realize what it was made to do. And and deal with the pain and the allergies on its own. And so you don't need that stuff, even the natural stuff as much. But the cool thing about the natural stuff is it's still good for you even if you do keep taking it. Oh, the other thing was, besides the pain and the allergies, there was one more thing, and that was my stomach. I used to get stomach aches all the time. I think I got stomach aches more than I got headaches. And I always kept Alka-Seltzer and Tums on hand. But again, when I really started finding out this, learning about this stuff and realizing how bad that stuff was for you, and that they actually has it may temporarily deal with the problem, but it actually causes more problems, like Alka-Seltzer or those types of medicines end up causing more problems with that digestive system, so that you have even more stomach aches and whatever. And so I was just like, okay, going about this all wrong yet again. So I found out that I knew, actually had already known, that peppermint was good for the stomach. And I started growing my own peppermint. And in the meantime, I always liked peppermint tea, so I started just drinking more peppermint tea every time I had a headache, or a stomach ache, excuse me. And that helped immensely, doing the peppermint tea. And then when I started using the my own homegrown peppermint, that worked even better. I could just go out there, get a stomach ache, I'd just go pick a little sprig off and chew on it, and my stomach was better, just like that. And so the more I did it, the more I became sold. So the thyroid was actually the last thing to go, because it was the scariest step, since it was prescription. And as I said in the previous videos, they make you believe that you never can go off your thyroid medication. Well, I'm here to tell you it is a lie. I believe most people, if not everyone, who is currently on thyroid medication can actually go off of it. But I encourage you to keep doing your research. Don't just listen to what I say, because I am not a doctor, and that's my disclaimer. Nothing I say is meant to replace medical advice. Find yourself a good naturopathic doctor who can help you through this. And I don't want to guarantee, but I'm feeling pretty certain that everyone could eventually rid the thyroid medication. Well, I shouldn't say everyone, because I do know there's people that have actually done the whole, like this is the dark ages, and were convinced they had to have their thyroid gland removed. And now you may have no choice but to take some sort of thyroid replacement. And if that's the case, then you should be looking at the natural stuff, such as the Armor brand, and talk to your doctor about that. If you're one of those that does not even have a thyroid anymore, and I'm sorry, I'm really sorry that you had to be one of those people that was convinced that had to be done. Now, I do understand some people end up with thyroid cancer, and then that's how they get rid of it. But again, even that, I think there's other ways to cure it than to have to cut out an important part of your body. Anytime you start removing important parts, you're going to start having more issues. And so even there's a lot of surgeries I believe people are undergoing that are not helping them, but are making them more dependent on big pharma and causing more problems down the road. So at any rate, if you're already there, it's not your fault. You didn't know. You were made to believe something that was a lie. So there's still better ways to go about it than taking the synthetic drugs. And yes, I understand the Armor is more expensive. But for the sake of your health in the long run, is it worth it to isn't it worth it to go ahead and spend a little bit more that's going to have a lot less adverse side effects, or issues, long-term effects on your health? Because the Synthroid and what was the other one that starts with an L? You guys know what I'm talking about if you're having thyroid issues. Those are synthetic medications that will have long-term health effects, detrimental health effects. So here I am sitting here feeling pretty darn good, feeling better than I did when I was on the medications, and definitely better than I did before I went on the medications. When, you know, I first started having thyroid issues, and I'm not having to take drugs to do it. I'm simply living a natural lifestyle. So coming back to that, and I'll go into other videos, I'll go into more into depth on some of the other changes we made to our diet to help our thyroids heal themselves and be able to do what they were meant to do. But I want to close this by saying one more thing that I forgot, and I think I might have thrown it into the text. When I was telling you in the last video the things, if you have thyroid issues, that the things that you really must, absolutely must eliminate from your diet, one of the things I forgot to say was fluoride. You've got to get the fluoride out. Stop using fluoridated toothpaste. Stop, when you go to the dentist, don't let them use any kind of fluoride on you, because even if it's just in your mouth, it's still getting absorbed in your bloodstream. And if you live in a place where you're on city water and they're still fluoridating the water, like this is the Dark Ages or Nazi Germany, you need to find an alternative and only use that water for washing. And you know, I recommend getting a Berkey filter system and going that, and you have to also make sure that you get the filter. If you're using your city tap water that's fluoridated, make sure you get the filter that removes the fluoride. Otherwise it's very specific, because fluoride is very, very tiny, and the standard filters don't remove fluoride. They'll take everything else out but the fluoride. What we do is we use the standard Berkey filter, but we use rainwater. So there's no fluoride in rainwater. And then we filter out the rainwater. And that's what we consume. So making those changes with the rainwater and cutting back on the coffee, for me eventually I cut back. I was never a huge coffee drinker. I never drank a lot, but I just kept cutting back more and more until I've been able to just completely replace it. Typically I only had a cup to 2 cups a day of coffee anyway. And sometimes I'll still have maybe, you know, an ounce of coffee. I'll just add it to my, you know, when I'm drinking my latte blend, and there's a little bit of that stuff left at the bottom, I'll pour a little coffee in there just to swish around and finish it off, and it tastes good. But that's not enough. I'm not concerned about it. So eliminating the coffee and absolutely eliminating the fluoride and absolutely eliminating the alcohol. I know a lot of people have an issue with that, but even if it's not for religious reasons, or, you know, for me it was partly spiritual, but it was also health reasons. Because I knew that the alcohol was very hard on the thyroid and will affect how well it works. So those are things you got to eliminate. I might have also mentioned the raw cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, kale. Those are things you may want to eliminate for a time. Those are extremely healthy for you. However, when they're in the raw form, they're high in the goitrogens, which does slow down thyroid production. So when you're in the early stages of trying to let your thyroid heal and be able to do what it was supposed to do, you may need to eliminate the raw cruciferous vegetables just for a time. Now I don't anymore. I did then. So it just means you can still eat them. You just want to make sure they're cooked, steamed, even dehydrated, and then cooked from there, or whatever is good. I looked into the fermenting, and came across 2 different things. One said that, you know, the fermenting process removes the goitrogens, but then what I did further research, I found more information saying that it actually raised the goitrogens. So you really don't even want to do the fermented ones. And again, it's just temporarily. Just like adding in the vitamins and stuff like that, the supplements, that's just something to do temporarily until you can get everything starts adjusting correctly, and then you've got your diet under control in a way that's most beneficial to your health. So I will go into future videos, I will talk more about different diets. When I say diets, just different things you can add or do to your diet that will help with your thyroid. And each person's going to be a little bit different on what they need. So that's why, and I tried several different things. And anyway, so that's why I want to go into that in more detail in another video, because otherwise these videos will be really, really long. And some people like the long videos, but it's more than just that. A lot of times it's so much information to take in that it may be best just to kind of focus a little bit at a time. You've got to take this stuff in baby steps, and that's the other thing. Start small and build up. Just like anything else you do, the easiest way to do it is by taking it in baby steps, because there's a lot of information and there's a lot of relearning that you need to do. You know, I know because I've been there and I'm still learning. I'm not there. I haven't arrived. I'm not Miss Queen of the knowledge of all herbs and getting off pharmaceuticals. This is where I'm at right now, and I've learned quite a bit along the way, and I'm still learning all the time. Because I'm always hoping, even though I may have conquered this area in my life, I know there's other people dealing with other health issues, and I'm going to start looking into those one by one so that I can see if what I've done will help them as well. All right, so that's all for today's talk on Pharma Free, and watch for more videos on this. I don't know, there might be one more, there might be two more. It just depends on how much in depth I'm going to get in this. So I hope this is helping you. I know I got a lot of good responses from the first one. So if you haven't seen Pharma Free Part 1, go watch that one. It doesn't necessarily have to be in any particular order. So take care. Thanks for watching, and God bless.